Hello and welcome to the Fall and Fallow Heart Pod. The Fall and Fallow Heart Pod is a podcast dedicated to raising awareness about plant blindness. Plant blindness is a term coined by the botanists Elizabeth Schussler and James Wondersea, and they described it as the inability of one to see the plants in one's own environment. At Fall and Fallow, we strive to educate by exploring people plant relationships and discussing the importance of healthy plants to a healthy planet. The interconnectedness and reciprocal nature of this relationship is discussed in more detail in episode 5, the symbiotic relationship between people and plants. This episode and other past episodes are available on the social media platforms YouTube, Spotify, X, Instagram, Facebook, and Learn Notes. So please follow us, like us, and subscribe to our channel. In this episode, I will be talking to my two mentors who inspired me to start Fall and Fallow. They were pivotal in encouraging and fostering my interest in plants, and we will discuss how this foundation was laid. So please stay tuned. When we return, we will meet my two mentors, and I will talk about my progress and my journey. Thank you. Welcome back, everyone. I titled this episode Nurture, Bloom, Grow. On one level, this describes the process where you plant the seed, you provide water and optimum conditions for the seed to develop into the seedling, mature into a plant, and reach its full potential. But metaphorically, I'm using this episode to address two things. The first is the role of mentors in our lives. Mentors support or nurture us. They help us to tap into our potential or bloom, and they help us to grow. Mentors have had a huge impact on my life, and thanking my mentor is long overdue, and I don't want another day to go by without doing so. Secondly, I hope that this episode reaches the ears of someone who is considering working with plants but needs some encouragement to get started. Here to help me tell my story and to get things started are two people who have been very influential in my life. Let's take a short break, and when we return, I'm going to share my story and my journey. Stay tuned. Welcome back, everyone. I want to briefly share with you how I became interested in plants. So my interest in plants began out of necessity. Although my dad made decent wages at his job, inevitably groceries would run low before his next paycheck. So as a teenager, I started a vegetable garden to supplement my family's food supply. I planted callaloo, tomatoes, pumpkins, squash, okra, and eggplant. I shared before in a previous podcast that callaloo was my favorite crop to grow because it regenerated itself after harvesting. After harvesting the first set of leaves, I replanted the stalks back into the soil, and within a few weeks another crop would come in. Now after reaping those leaves, I replanted the stalks again and would get a third crop before the stalks stopped producing. When I reaped my crop of callaloo, I took it to my mother, who made the most wonderful dishes from it. So, growing up, I ate a lot of callaloo. My mom was a good cook, and I absolutely loved the callaloo dishes she prepared. This was where my first spark of interest in plants was lit, because although just the basic need for survival led me to the world of plants, I found a connection there. My interest in plants continued beyond high school. After high school, I wanted to go away to a 2-year agricultural school. During the time I spent at the agricultural school, I was fortunate to have a very good teacher and mentor who helped me to navigate the academic system and to adjust to being away from home. The college was 62 miles away from my hometown, and his kindness was pivotal in helping me to successfully complete the course. He is now deceased, but I remember him with so much love and appreciation for his kindness. After graduating, I worked briefly with plants, and I also worked in other fields that were not plant related. Now it's many years later, and I have returned to my first love, which is plants, and they provide the same fulfillment, engagement, and enjoyment which I've always felt when I work with plants. I could not have laid that foundation without the support of two special people, and when we return, they will join me. Stay tuned. Welcome back, everyone. Today's episode is titled Nurture, Bloom, and Grow, and it's about encouragement and support. This episode is a special broadcast, and it is important to me because I will be interviewing my mentors, and I will finally have a chance to thank them for what they did for me all those years ago. So, this episode is dedicated to these two special individuals who I'm lucky to have here with me to thank in person. Folks, I am joined in the studio by JJ and Keith. JJ suffered a stroke about a year ago and is still recovering from that stroke. The other guest is my mentor, Keith. So let's dive right into it. Hi, JJ.
Hello.
How are you feeling?
Feeling good.
You have a beautiful voice. Can you sing a song for me?
I can't sing now. They call me horsey. I can't sing. I can't sing now in voice and chorus.
Okay, but can you hum something? What about Amazing Grace? Can you try that?
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saves the wretch like me.
Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you, JJ. You just inspired someone. For new listeners, JJ is recovering from a stroke, and singing is one of the favorite things that she likes to do. But when she got the stroke, the singing stopped. So the fact that she can sing again shows that she has reached another milestone in her recovery. That's huge. So let's give JJ another round of applause. Keith, are you okay?
I'm fine.
That's a tough act to follow right there.
Sure. Of course. Of course.
Yes.
Mom is a great singer. That's her specialty.
I always love to hear JJ sing. She really is a great singer. Keith, you wear a lot of hats.
Mhm.
As a husband, a dad, a stepdad, a grandparent, a big brother, and the eldest son. So due to your birth order, you have been thrust into a leadership role. Do you agree?
Of course. And I embrace that role.
How did it make you feel? Did it intimidate you at any point?
Well, I think going back to those days, really going through the whole process of me being a mentor and being kind of a leader within the family. I mean, it dates back to me being the eldest son. My brothers and sisters were very young. Mom was a stay-at-home mom. She didn't have a whole lot of experience and training in terms of being able to manage the kids and cook the food, make sure that they're fed, take care of her husband and all those things. So to some respect, she leaned on me in a very informal way without being actually trusting me formally into that role. And I just kind of drifted into it or assumed that role. So there was no pressure.
I see that you really had a lot of responsibility. However, I did hear you say that there is no pressure, but is there some satisfaction knowing that what you said and what you did positively influenced others and changed lives in some instances?
Like I said, I was actually thrust into that position where my mom just kind of depended on me to be the, I guess, the surrogate dad, if you want to call it that, of my brothers and sisters. I think that role was extremely important. First of all, the fact that in most cases, my brothers and sisters kind of followed my lead. So it tells you how important that was. I played basketball, they drifted towards basketball. And they look on me to kind of lead the way, and then they followed accordingly. And in the process, taught them a relationship, how they should relate to each other, how they can be responsible. I played basketball, there's a responsibility there in terms of being a part of a team and making decisions and stuff like that. And in terms of extending that a little further out, I mean, I don't know if migration is something that we want to mention here, but as we migrated and we moved from Guyana to the United States, everyone followed, and we had the responsibility of making sure that everyone was accounted for, my sisters, brothers, and everything else. And that whole role of being a mentor and a leader enabled me as well as everyone else to kind of buy into the whole process of getting everyone here. And not just getting everyone here, but also setting a course and a framework for them to determine, like, how do we move forward from here. Okay. I graduated, I went to school, I did all the things. My brothers and sisters followed. I mean, they came, we had a process, we had a plan, they followed that plan and that framework, and it really helped them to get to where they are now. At least I sincerely think that it did.
Thank you, Kate. The support that you provided to your siblings, your brothers and sisters, certainly seem to have laid a roadmap for them as far as mapping out their future and ensuring that it was successful. When we return, I want to share with you how big a role Keith played in my life. Welcome back, everyone. Today's episode, Nurture, Bloom, and Grow, is about encouragement and support, and we're talking about mentors. Keith, I want to jog your memory a little. There was a time when I went to agriculture school. Do you remember that time, and what do you remember about it?
Yeah, of course I remember that time. I remember that was your passion, right? It was something for you to do. I mean, that's around the time when everyone else, you left school and trying to plot your way and find your path to wherever it is that you need to go and figure that out. So I was thinking that was your moment.
Thank you.
I remember the school.
You don't? Okay. Thank you for that, Keith. One of the things that you did during that time was give me your unbiased support. You did not know much about it. You didn't grill me about why I wanted to do it, but you paid for my tuition. And one of my best memories is you just stepped up to the plate and did what was asked of you. You had your first job. It was not a lot of money, but you contributed what you could. You went to work diligently every day and made a lot of sacrifices to help me make that payment. As a result of your willingness to help, I was able to complete the course and ultimately to get my diploma in agriculture. So I'm forever grateful to that. Agriculture has always been my first love, and after many detours, I'm going right back to working with plants. And I must thank you for giving me that foundation.
Sure.
My other mentor was JJ. She also supported me with emotional and moral support, and she was always there with words of encouragement when I had a break from the academics. JJ may not remember everything about that moment right now, and that could be because it's been a while. It's been almost 30 years since I last went to agriculture school. So it may take a little bit for her to recall that time. But JJ was there for me, and I wanted to thank JJ for the encouragement and the support that she provided me with during that time. So I have some flowers that I'd like to present JJ with. JJ, could you please accept this bouquet of flowers from me as a token of my appreciation for what you did for me all those years ago? And Keith, I also would like to thank you for the support you provided me when I wanted to attend agricultural school. So please accept this bouquet of flowers from me.
Thank you.
The impact on my life is still being felt by me over 40 years after it took place. Now, I was curious as to whether mentoring had a minimum period that the parties had to communicate in order for the process to be effective. So I Googled it and the answer popped right up in the AI overview. According to AI, and I quote, there can be short term mentors, also called flash mentoring, micro mentoring, session based mentoring, one time mentoring. But what defines it is that it's targeted and it focuses on something specific. But mentoring can be for any period. It can be as long as two plus years or as brief as 45 minutes. And this structure is most often found in the corporate environment where an individual is taught a particular skill to help them succeed in the workplace or skills to manage their mental health and to help them succeed in life. Let's take another break, and when we return, we will discuss other mentoring experiences. Welcome back, everyone. Today's episode is titled Nurture, Bloom, Grow, and it discusses the role of mentors in our lives and the importance of mentoring. My guests today are my two mentors, Keith and JJ, and I discussed earlier how each of them impacted my life years ago, a few years ago, and the impact is still being felt. Now, Keith, you have been in the corporate culture and you know the corporate culture. Can you relate to that? Can you recall any notable mentor or someone who has had a positive impact on your life?
Sure. Okay. So, as a mentor, let me just kind of go back a little bit, right? So, in the corporate world, as it relates to even to my schooling, right? So, one of the things I want to mention, I mean, it may sound a little long-winded because I'm going back a little further, is that the mentorship that I provided or the guidance that I provided to my brothers and sisters, right, and even to my mom, because my mom was more like a sister than just a mom. In other words, we each taught each other, like, how to survive and how to navigate the whole process of kids and family and everything else. And just to kind of extend that a little further in terms of the length or the period of mentorship. I started college, university. A lot of my time, I just felt that this obligation to help anyone who was in need. So I spent a whole lot of time actually tutoring and mentoring a lot of students who were less fortunate. I mean, some from backgrounds that maybe they were the first person going to college. They didn't have the support at home, and I actually spent a lot of my time really sitting down with some of these students and teaching them how to navigate, like, the tough things like math. I mean, I had, at one point, I would even mention that I had a friend, really, who's a countryman from Guyana, who was so deadly afraid of math that he just froze every time he had to take an exam. And I remember sitting with him and really kind of uh, getting him to get past that psychological block and sit down and say, well, okay, listen, this is fear. You just need to get past that. I'm really kind of tutoring him how to get through and how to navigate that process. And believe it or not, it took me like 2 years of sitting and tutoring, and because it was a psychological process that needed to get through. Just jumping over to the question in terms of the corporate world. I mean, in the corporate environment, you need a mentor in order to just survive, right? I mean, you get out of school, you feel like you can change the world, and you feel powerful and everything else, not realizing that there's not a lot that you really know, that you're green, and a lot of your knowledge has not even begun to be realized, right? So it's important in the sense that most companies would actually try to have a formal process where you get mentored in terms of your job, your responsibilities. But it's also a case where, to a certain extent, I mean, it might be a little controversial in a sense, but where you pretty much been a mentor to yourself, right? And when I say mentor to yourself, which sounds a little off, it's really a case where you take that responsibility to educate and to inform yourself in terms of your job and how to navigate your relationships with your employers and everything else, right? So you take on that responsibility, you go and get that information, and then you do whatever you need to do to get you past that.
Thank you for that. It sounds like you've had to be very self sufficient along with helping others. So you were able to get through it, but it has not been easy. So thank you for sharing. I hope the message that's getting across is that there is traditional mentoring where the mentors are authority figures who work in various professions like teaching, law enforcement, mental health. They could be a basketball coach or a swimming coach. You have the Toastmasters organization, which started as a way to help young men improve their speaking abilities. You have the Small Business Association that help entrepreneurs build businesses. But from what I'm hearing you say is that you also had to mentor yourself. It doesn't seem as though you had that type of relationship in the corporate world. It seems you had to be very sufficient in the corporate world. So it's very admirable that you are able to pivot and to provide yourself with what you needed to succeed. Some of us may never have the opportunity to be a mentor, but there are numerous opportunities to utter words of encouragement to someone to keep on planting that seed, raking that garden, tending that tree, watering the lawn, or starting that community garden. Whether we are aware of it or not, we have chances to impact someone's life every day. And a lot of it is informal. Earlier on, I heard you point out a lot of instances where you provided mentorship in a lot of informal situations.
I completely agree. And it's just as valuable as having a formal mentorship.
Folks, we will take our final break. This discussion has been so enlightening, and I can't stress enough how important I think mentors are. So stay tuned, and when we return, we will continue to talk about this. Thank you. Welcome back, everyone, to the final segment of the Fall and Fallow Heart Pod. Today, we're talking about the important role that mentors play in our lives. Joining me in the studio today are my two mentors, JJ and Keith, who I was fortunate enough to be able to thank in person. However, sometimes due to circumstances, we are not always able to have that opportunity to express our gratitude and appreciation to our mentors who, under no obligation, stepped in and selflessly gave of their time and knowledge, and in some instances, succeeded in changing the trajectory of our lives. So for me to be able to thank my mentors in person was a very special moment for me, and I'm glad that you were able to be a part of it. I consider myself fortunate and blessed to have a platform to pay forward the gift and opportunity that you gave me. I feel like somewhere out there, there's someone who is very passionate about plants, and I want to use my platform to say to that person and everyone else in the community that you are the cornerstone of a healthy planet and a part of the solution. As an individual gardener, you may feel that your contribution may not be spectacular enough and not big enough. My message to you is, and I quote the words of Mr. David Dean, don't despise the day of small beginnings. Your effort now may look tiny, minuscule to you, but your contributions can bloom and grow and inspire others to become involved in spreading awareness of the importance of plants to a healthy planet. There are many career paths and avenues open to anyone who wants to lend their voice to further this message. A simple internet search can point you to many careers where you can work with plants. So the person whom you encourage to plant that seed today may be the ethnobotanist of tomorrow. I urge you to be generous with your seeds of encouragement. So thank you for listening, and remember, you take care of plants, they take care of you. And please remember to follow us on the social media platforms: Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, Learn Notes, and X. So once again, thank you to all my listeners, and please tune in next time. Thank you.